Shalom and welcome to this week's Living Torah. As we get into the Torah portion of You're to Take, of course this is the infamous Torah portion of the golden calf. Getting into that in just a few minutes. Before I do, it's just a few more days, and Bezrat Hashem, God willing, I'll be on an airplane to Israel, heading through France. I'm not real crazy about that one. Never been to France before, so I won't be able to say that again. But heading to Israel for, I think it's 12 days on the ground. And so the next 2 weeks of Torah portions, once again, are going to be pre-recorded. It will be the second and third teachings that I've done a number of years ago in Lebanon, Tennessee, on the tabernacle. And so won't leave you without something to watch on Shabbat. But speaking of watching, I'm planning on, again, just to anybody that has not heard this, I'm planning again, as I did last February, to record a lot of video while I'm there and take a lot of pictures. I'm taking my phone, my camera, and just trying to do as much as I possibly can to connect people with the land. I don't know what the situation is going to be by the time I get there. I don't know what the situation is going to be by the time this recording goes out. It's pretty fluid these days. But I will be, my plan to walk around, to drive around is not going to be, the selfie pictures of me standing in front of something, really. It's going to just be, I may not even be in any of the pictures, I don't know. But it's going to be me walking around, driving around, maybe on a horseback or something, giving you a tour of the land in a virtual sense. And this is your opportunity, okay? I can't say this, I could say it a little sterner, but I'm not going to. This is your opportunity to connect people. I've been talking with people all in the last couple of weeks that I've never said anything really about Israel to them. And I've said, I'm going to be doing video. They're like, you're going to be doing what? How do I get this? I want to see this. I want to follow you along. I've wanted to be there, and I have not been able to do that, or I haven't done that in my life. And so, I'm going to be putting this on Facebook, on YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, and it will not be live. It will actually be recorded, because some of the platforms that are used do not allow you to be in landscape mode. They make you just record in portrait mode, which bothers me because it takes out so much of the picture. So I'll be recording these, and as soon as I possibly can, encoding them, putting up on the servers, and then it's up to you. Okay, then it's this thing's in your hands at that moment in time to send it out to people. Maybe people that you have never had a conversation with regarding Israel. People that have said maybe something along the way. This is your opportunity to get them involved. Let the land speak for itself. And so send it out to your social media. If you have other accounts like Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever it is, use those platforms. Okay, you be the ambassador for Israel, or just watch it by yourself, and whichever one, that's okay. All right, let's get in before I get myself in real trouble there. Let's get into the Torah portion of Ki Tisa, when you take, which is in Exodus chapter 30, verse 12, and I think it's a fitting intro with what I just said. All right, that it says, when you take a census of the people and register them, each upon registration is to pay a ransom for his life to Yudhe to anyone, to avoid any breakout or plague. But it goes on, it says, it is to be the standard of the sanctuary shekel. A shekel equals 20 gerah. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But it is about everyone doing exactly the same. reminded, I guess, of the old saying from many, many years ago, and a little different theology maybe. A lot of the same, but there's of course some changes that all of us have made. I'll get to that in just a little while. But the saying was the ground at the foot of the cross was level. The ground at the foot of the execution stake, maybe it would be a better way of saying that, is level. There's nobody that's there that has a higher seat. There's no one there that it walks to that place with any kind of anything of their life, really. Everyone comes to the same place on equal ground. And so this is telling us that everyone has equal value unto him. There's no one that's of greater value just because somebody may be in ministry. Somebody may be able to give thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, as opposed to the person that can give $10. In the eyes of the Almighty, everyone comes and everyone stands before him as equal value and also has an equal stake. So this offering to the tabernacle was that everyone had to come, no matter what their, at age 20 and above, but it did not matter what their social status was. It did not matter how they were dressed, what kind of chariot maybe or wagon they got to there with. None of those things mattered at that point. Everyone had an equal stake in the work of building a dwelling place and then maintaining and continuing the work of that dwelling place for him to be. The only choice that is different with each person coming to this equal ground is the attitude of the person. We go back a few chapters and it says, everyone who wholeheartedly wants to give. Now, I mean, this could be talking about linen and gold and silver and whatever it is, ram skins and everything else that it took. But it was also about them bringing their own sacrifice later. It was a picture of them bringing of themselves. When you give unto, as I have to once again, as I have done so many times prior to an Israel trip, say that for those the response that people have given again in a shaky economy, as it has been in bad economies, good economies, whatever it is, the response that we have received from people for giving unto Israel this time is, again, overwhelming to me. And from the notes that Kathy's gotten, from the notes that are on a PayPal or whatever it is, it's not that I need to give. No, it's people are giving with that willingness, the attitude. And I'm not only able to take those funds with me, which, so, this is one of the times, ladies and gentlemen, that it's just like fun to be me when I'm able to go, but I have to again reiterate this. There's not a single place that I go and give funds, whether that will be, buying pizza for a soldier or whatever, that I'm allowing the attention to be on me. Everywhere I go, whether it be in the communities in Judea, Samaria, in the old city, no matter what, I make sure that I'm able, whenever I possibly can, to tell people this is not money that came directly from me. This is money that came from people literally all over the world that are here, that love you, that are blessing you. And so I'm able to share not only in the funds, but the attitude of giving unto people in Israel in this still very tragic time. So again, thank you. But for anybody who is still in that place of, well, I'm just not me, I don't mean anything in this kingdom, in this building of his kingdom, in this building of a place on this earth for him to dwell. I'd love to just say get over it, but I know that some attitudes, some issues that have happened in people's lives take time, but at least try to put yourself through his grace, his mercy, on this journey of understanding that these verses are written to you to make you understand that if you're breathing today, if you're able to listen to what I'm saying, if you're able to watch this, whatever it is, that you are important in this job, this duty, this calling that we all have of preparing a place for him to dwell on this earth. Now, skipping around a lot today, just kind of theme to theme here. One of my favorite parts of the tabernacle, as opposed to like all of them are my favorite, which is true, but one of my favorites of my favorites is this. You were to make the basin of bronze, which is verse 18, and this is intriguing to me, there are no dimensions. Again, there's not a place, there's not a time, there's not there's no way that we can come to a place of saying, okay, I know all that the word has to say. I've been around people that I feel like that is their attitude toward the scripture. You can't teach them anything. What a tragic thing. Because none of us in this realm are ever going to come to the place that we will, come to the end of the revelation of scripture, the end of the revelation of who he is, who our creator is. I've gone through the last couple of weeks at Life Assembly just talking for just a short period of time on the letter Aleph. Just one single letter in the Paleo alphabet is fascinating. It's overwhelming to me. And we're just, scratching the surface of this. How much more is there going to be in the kingdom when Messiah is the one that is speaking? We're going to see that the non-dimensional revelation of who he is and what his word is probably will overwhelm us in that day, even with using more of our brain, I would imagine, than what we do today. Now, in chapter 31, it is about Be'ezel and the son of Uri and Oliab. There it is, Oliab. What is it about these two men? Okay, what is it about their lives? Are they something special? Did they have something in Egypt? Were they in charge of craftsmanship and all these things? I just have a hard time believing that that's true. What I've seen in the time of my life of walking with him is this, that he's looking for people that are available. All right, not everybody is available. In fact, and this kind of the theme that I began with, not everyone who is available is available. They haven't put themselves out there. They may have extra time, talent, whatever it is, but have never really offered that unto him. Now, I want to go to, I'm just going to go one verse here, a verse that has intrigued me for many, many years, and that is in 2 Chronicles chapter 16. And this is a verse that I have underlined in my scripture. You can go back and look at the context. I urge you to do that. I'm just something I don't really like to do, but I'm pulling a verse out. I think I'm using it in context here. But in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9, for the eyes of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh move here and there throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those who are wholehearted toward him. That very thought is overwhelming to me. That I do not believe that this is a verse for just a moment in time that was spoken just there to the king. But this verse has been and will continue to be from the beginning of the age to the end of the age. That his eyes have always been going to and fro over the whole earth. Now, if we bring this into a different level, it also says in the book of Job, when Yah is asking Hasatan, what have you been doing? Well, I've been going to and fro over the whole earth, trying to find who I can deceive into following me. We can consider it like this. There are two sets of eyes out there that are continually going over the whole earth. Whose eyes are stopping on you? Which set of eyes are like, there's one that their lifestyle is according to my will? I would just assume that as the enemy, Hasatan, is roaming around, looking around, he glances over and goes, not worth, I don't want to go there. And just kind of walks away. Because what he sees, and this is just my desire, okay? This is not some arrogant statement I'm making. This is just my desire. And that is that the eyes of Yah would have to go no further upon this earth. This is not a prayer that I just started, kind of working on a few days ago. This is something that the first time I read that verse, it just jumped off the page at me. And it's something that I don't know that I've done it well all the time, but it's been kind of like in the back of my mind that, Father, if your eyes are still going over the whole earth, looking for those who even have the desire to be wholehearted, all right, then I don't want you to have to keep looking. I just assume that your eyes were able to stop wherever it is that I'm standing. What would it be like if a number of us said, okay, I got it. His eyes can be upon many people in many places at the same time. He's not just limited to staring at one person. So would not that be a prayer for all of us to pray to the point that it's like, wow, I'm just, he's like looking all over the place at each person that is wholeheartedly toward him. What a beautiful picture. Now, speaking of pictures, it kind of changes here as we get to this, the golden calf. Now, I'm not going to take this apart this week. I've got way too many other things in my brain right now, coming up on my email of things I got to do regarding a flight. Okay, they're welcoming me aboard for my trip to Tel Aviv. I'm not there yet. All right, but these things, this is just always in my mind for the next few days. So I'm not going to take this time to go over all of the things about the golden calf, only that this is known as the second greatest sin that the Hebrews committed. All right, there is in the end, there is of course consequences. The consequences are that they would never be able to see the tablets with the writing, the original set. It's something to kind of consider. Think about that. There's something there with us that what he's giving to us is what we will end up having is going to be the second set. Moshe had to cut the tablets and go back up onto the mountain. Okay, so did the glory of the tablets look a little different? Did they lose a level of the glory that was upon those tablets because of the golden calf? Yeah, probably so. Has, through the years, golden calf Christianity, has through the years, golden calf Judaism, okay, I put both in there, changing the word, which, I don't just look at one group of people and say that they have added to or subtracted to and changed some of the things, just going back to the word, all right, what have we lost over these years? What it was lost because of the early Messianic congregation in Jerusalem bowing down to and accepting the wishes and desires of Marcion and Constantine and all these other anti-Semitic, the so-called church fathers that were anti-Semitic. What was, Martin Luther when he turned against the Jews? What did we lose because of all that? Probably quite a bit. But the question is, or what I want to do is not so much point a finger at the Hebrews in the wilderness, but to instead ask a question. Now this is, before I do, this is, as I said, the second in the list of, they lost, but at the same time, this was not the judgment of not entering into the land, which was with the 12 spies, 10 of the 12 spies. So it's my opinion based on these verses that when it comes to changing his image or not trusting in his word is, he's like, well, you mess with my image, but that can be repaired. But if you're not going to trust me, you're not going to enter in. That's another level of not walking in faith with him. Because what are we doing? We're questioning his word. Now, going back to the golden calf, a question. I ask myself anytime that I think about these verses, and especially when I go through them, how much golden calf theology is to this day left in me. As I look back over, this year will be 32 years of full-time, what would be called full-time ministry. Much more than that of studying prior to. I look back at how much of my theology has changed. Things that made perfect sense to me 30 years ago make absolutely no sense to me today. The Torah is done away with. That used to make good sense. Today, no sense at all. For most of you that are watching me, you've gone through these things. So the question that I continue to ask myself is a question that maybe I should give unto you, is to ask ourselves, how much of the golden calf theology of our past is still alive in our lives today? That, to me, is probably a scary question, because I'm not really sure, as I'm asking it, if I want the full answer to that. There's probably a lot more that has to be done. There's still some golden calf that probably hasn't quite made it to the point of being ground up yet and thrown in the water. But it's the process. It's the process that we're on that we should be thankful that he has revealed the golden calves of our lives and is taking us from that. Now, thankfully Moshe steps into this thing because the Almighty basically says, all right, because of what the people have done, they're going to go into the promised land. I'm not going with them. I'm not going to leave. I'm just going to stay here at Mount Sinai. I'm going to hang out here, and I'm going to watch from a distance as you guys enter in. Well, Moshe probably figures out real fast that's going to be a disaster. Because as we read through the book of Joshua, which I've just done in preparation for going to Israel, it says that Yah was with them the whole time, and they had success over their enemies. I can pretty much guarantee you that if Moshe had lost the negotiation process here in Exodus chapter 33, that the book of Joshua would have turned out quite a bit different. In fact, it may have been a total disaster. Because where we're heading in life, if he is not with us, it's these again intriguing words to me, words that go back in my life many years ago. Verse 13, Moshe replied. Let's go to verse 14. He answered, "Set your mind at rest. My presence will go with you after all." Moshe replied, even though the Almighty had said, okay, set your mind at rest. You talked me into it. I'm going to go with you. And Moshe makes sure that he heard this right. And he says these words, if your presence does not go with us, don't make us go on from here. Ladies and gentlemen, that should be a decision in our lives. If your presence is not going with us, I don't need to be taking another step. Believe me, in trying to come up with the dates, I say come up with dates to be in Israel, I was literally, it was like I was funneled into a 12-day period. I have a number of friends that were going to be traveling on business or whatever prior to. I was planning to be in Israel last month, in the month of February, once again, like I was last year. But then I kind of it got narrowed down for me, and okay, well, this isn't going to work because of Purim's in the middle of it. And Purim, one of the things that Hanok and I have in common is I'm not really a real Purim person, okay? The whole message of Purim to me is a group of people in exile that end up, even God himself did not mention his name in the book of Esther. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, the book of Esther was not there. So I'm not saying it's not scripture. I'm not saying it's not important. But there's things about the book of Esther and what it has turned into today of in portions of Judaism, it is basically a drunken brawl where it is taught that you're to have so much to drink that you can't tell the difference between Haman and Mordecai. That just doesn't sound real godly to me in the end. Dressing up and it's just not. If you like Purim, that's fine, okay. But how about putting a good meaning back into it? Like, hey guys, we're in exile. We need to be figuring out how to get out of here. That would be that's to me the message of Purim. So he says, if we're not. So I got back to where I was going. I got funneled into these dates to where these were the only dates that would work in the schedule between, with Purim involved and then Passover coming up. So I'm just kind of believing that the Father has given me in this that, hey, I'm going with you. In fact, I'm probably going before you. And I've had people text me already. We're praying for divine appointments. I thank you. I've already seen some of that happen, and I'm not even there yet. And so I'm looking forward to that good report as the two spies, as Joshua and Caleb. I'm looking forward to, while I'm there and when I come back, the good report of what is going on in the land. Now, from there we get into the renewing of the covenant. Moshe is told to take the tablets, to cut yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first ones, and I will inscribe on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you broke. The joke is that Moshe broke all 10 commandments at the same time. Now, as we go through chapter 34, there's a kind of a fascinating verse here in verse 8, like the rest of them aren't. But I've heard people say, well, what about the sinner's prayer? I mean, where is the sinner's prayer? And so they're going to go over to the book of Romans, go through the so-called Roman road, and then this sinner's prayer from there. But everything in our lives must go back, I believe, to a foundation in the Torah. So here's another one to underline, or to mark in some way. In verse 8, at once Moshe bowed his head to the ground, prostrated. You go back and read the context. Prostrated himself and said, "If I have now found favor in your view, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, then please let Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh go with us, even though they are a stiff-necked people, and pardon our offenses and our sin, and take us as your possession." Folks, if you want to find a place to take people to a so-called sinner's prayer, that's a pretty good one right there. To look at him and say, if I found favor, I don't even know how I found favor, but since I'm talking to you, I guess I found favor. Then go with me. Now understand this. I'm a stiff-necked person. But please, as we're walking together from this point on, pardon my offenses and my sin, and take me as your possession. There, ladies and gentlemen, is the sinner's prayer. Now, after that, we see this reinstituting of a portion of the commandments, and it's really kind of put out in steps. First of all, it says, do not cast metal gods for yourself. So what is he saying to Moshe? Your first step is this. Acknowledge that what you did with the golden calf was the wrong thing to do. Now that you acknowledge that, you repent of, you turn away from that. Now let's go on to the next steps of the process, which is number 1, Passover. Coming back to the Passover lamb. This is why I believe that Passover goes all the way back to the garden. Number 3, acknowledging, it says everything that is first from the womb is mine, acknowledging that everything in our lives, everything truly belongs to him anyway. He is the one who gives us life. Next, that is Shabbat. I want one more word there. It's in my notes. I didn't look down and see it. That he has, this is back to this concept of acknowledging his ownership is a better way of looking at this. That he literally does, because he has bought us with a price. He has now, it goes to the bondservant. We have come to the place of understanding that he is asking us to be in his house at a different level. And as we go over to the words of Yeshua and then the teachings of the disciples of Shaul specifically, he is asking us to come into the house not as a servant, not as a slave, but as a son with full inheritance rights. So it is acknowledging that everything is his. We then look at Shabbat. I taught this week at Life Assembly on covenant. Now, the sign of the covenant is not tzitzit. The sign of the covenant is not that you're eating kosher, whatever level of kosher that may be. The sign of the covenant is Shabbat. We can go to many scriptures that talk about this. The Shabbat is literally, we could say it like this, the marriage, the wedding ring of us being united with him is Shabbat. So how much are we respecting that ring? And kind of leave it on the counter once in a while, or all the time. It's like, well, I don't think I'm going to wear it for, I'm going on a vacation. I think I'll just take my wedding ring off. No. We if you're in a right relationship, I feel that a wedding ring should be a sacred thing above all other pieces of jewelry. It should be something that is literally, to me, I don't feel like I'm properly dressed without my wedding ring. And I don't feel like I'm properly observing the commandments if I'm standing in Walmart on Saturday, which I don't, okay? So it begins with Shabbat, and then from there it is observe the festival of Shavuot. We again have this thing that I'll talk about when we get over to Leviticus, that it is said that you have not truly observed Passover until you have observed Shavuot. Because the release from Egypt is not complete until we have the instructions of how to stay out of Egypt. And in the center of that is Shabbat. So it's about our turning away from the golden calves of our lives, our turning to the Passover lamb, our acknowledging everything is of him and is his. We then acknowledge, we put on the wedding ring of the Shabbat, and then we begin to enter into the rest of the Torah. Moshe goes up on the mountain and he has this experience. He's there for 40 days and 40 nights, during which time he neither ate food or drank water. Now I've done a limited, did a bread fast for 40 days. I still have a hard time eating Ezekiel bread. But without remembering those days, that was, after 40 days, even Ezekiel bread doesn't taste really that good. I cannot imagine what Moshe was the whole concept here, the whole thought, that in the presence of Yah, that presence was sustaining Moshe, not just in his spiritual being, but the presence of Yah was sustaining his physical being to the point that he no longer even needed to take in the things that are needed for life: bread, food, and water. I wonder what would happen in our own lives if we begin to seek that amount of presence, or even, I don't think we could ever get to that point, but to seek a level of his presence that would begin to sustain. to heal our physical bodies. But the other part is that we read in these words that when he came down from the mountain, and Brad Scott, by the way, of blessed memory, did a great message on this a number of years ago. I'm not going to go into it, about the purpose of the veil. But I'm not going to go more as much to the veil as to the fact that Moshe's face was shining at such a level of brilliance that the people could not look upon him. That he had to put a veil over his face to diffuse the glory of Yah to the point that they could actually look. If you've ever, you look at a laser, you don't look at a laser. Why? A laser will blind you. A laser beam, it has to be diffused. A very bright light. You look at the sun, what's it going to do? It's going to, again, it'll blind you. Your physical eyes, it will blind you. So what, you have an eclipse. And even in the height of the eclipse, you're using something, sunglasses or some other contraption, to diffuse that level of light so that it does not injure you. My question is this: when's the last time, and I'm going to personalize this verse, when's the last time that my face shone at such a brilliance that it made people uncomfortable? When's the last time that your face shone, that you had come to that place, that level of walking with him, of spending time with him? I'm not, as I'm saying this, please believe me, I'm not pointing fingers of accusation at anyone. I got way too many fingers pointing back here. But when's the last time that any of us actually became so enthralled, so in awe of his presence, that we really honestly spent the time, that people were uncomfortable with us being around? Not because of our words, not because of our actions, because of our very being. I'm reminded of the stories of Smith Wigglesworth. If you've never read the books that were written, Smith Wigglesworth never wrote a book. He only read one book, and that was the Scripture. He never wrote a book, but many books were written about him. Controversial figure. Everybody that follows God is at times flawed, yes, but is pretty much going to be controversial. Smith Wigglesworth, the story was told of him that a woman, he was ministering in a local congregation church, and a woman had asked that Smith Wigglesworth would be allowed to stay at her house. When Smith Wigglesworth got there, she found out that her husband was working a night shift. And so he actually, she gave him their room, and Smith Wigglesworth had the bedroom, and never got to meet the guy. And the woman was really displeased at all this. I'm telling this story out of memory. I might not get the details exactly right. But she was very displeased because, he had not spent the time with her husband to lead him to Messiah, okay? Well, when he left, he looked at her and said, "Don't change the sheets." So in obedience, she didn't change the sheets. Her husband laid down that night in that same bed. When he touched the sheets, he jumped up off the bed and miraculously gave his life unto Messiah. When's the last time that our sheets made the difference in somebody's life? May we, I would say strive, but that's not really the word. You don't strive for a relationship, do you? I mean, if we have to strive for a relationship should not be something that in the end it does take work, but it should come naturally. A relationship with our Creator should not be one that we're striving for and clawing at, and it's like climbing this mountain without good climbing gear. It's like every place that we're grabbing onto a rock and trying to pull ourselves up. That should not be what our relationship with our Creator should be. It should take work, yes, but it should come naturally. When our very being has a desire for that relationship, one that in turn would affect other people. All right, next 2 weeks, recording. Follow me on Facebook, whatever social media you have. Again, if you would, please share the videos, the teachings I'm going to do, the whatever it is. I don't even know right now what I'll be doing exactly. I have some ideas, but share those with other people. You really don't know if that's going to be. You've been talking to them, you've been trying, but maybe it's something they see in the land that is just that point of connection that opens a door for you to take them to the next level. All right. So with that, Shabbat Shaloms, because I'll be gone for a couple. Shavua Tovs. I know those are not words. I just made them up. But may you have the next Shabbats. May they be blessed. The next weeks. May they be a blessing unto you. May you have favor. And Bezrat Hashem, God willing, in April, we'll see you again. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.